I still remember the sound the rain made that night. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't poetic. It was angry, almost as if the sky was crying for me. He stood in the doorway with his suitcase half-zipped, raindrops glistening on his shoulders. His voice, cold, shaking, said words I will never forget. "You're broken, Emily. I can't do this anymore." And just like that, he was gone. You'd think after 10 years I'd forget the exact way he said it, but no. Some wounds don't fade. They just learn to hide under your smile. Back then, I was 25, young, hopeful, and madly in love with a man named Daniel Carter. He was everything I thought a husband should be, confident, charming, with that smile that could calm a storm. And for a while, we were happy, truly happy. We bought a small, yellow house at the edge of Willow Creek, the kind with white fences and a mailbox shaped like a heart. Every evening, he'd come home with flowers from the gas station and say, "For my favorite girl." I didn't care that they cost $1. I cared that he remembered. We talked about names for our future kids. He liked Noah and Lily. I liked Ethan and Grace. We used to fight over who got to name the dog we didn't even have yet. It was the kind of ordinary happiness people write songs about. Until the tests. The first one came back inconclusive. The second one said low fertility probability. By the third one, the doctor couldn't meet my eyes. I still remember how small I felt sitting in that sterile white room, my hands gripping Daniel's like a child afraid of thunder. The doctor's voice was gentle, but the words cut deep. "I'm sorry, Emily. It's very unlikely you'll be able to conceive naturally." Daniel's hand went cold. He didn't say a word on the drive home. I tried to talk about adoption, about IVF, about hope, but every time he just stared out the window and said, "Let's not talk about this right now." We stopped eating dinner together. He stopped leaving flowers, and one night, while the rain screamed against our windows, he packed his bags and said those words, "You're broken." And then he left. The days that followed felt like living underwater. Every sound was muffled. Every color was gray. I'd wake up reaching for him, forgetting he wasn't there anymore. The neighbors whispered. His mother stopped calling. And in the grocery store, people would glance at me, the woman whose husband ran away because she couldn't give him a child. I couldn't even hate him because deep down, part of me believed he was right. A year passed, then 2. Slowly, I rebuilt myself. I sold the yellow house, moved into a smaller one closer to the clinic where I started working as a receptionist. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me purpose. I spent my days surrounded by people fighting for new life. Ironic, isn't it? One day, while sorting patient files, a nurse named Laura mentioned the foster program at a nearby center. She said, "You'd be amazing with kids. You've got that calm voice they trust." I laughed. "Me? A foster mom? I can barely keep a cactus alive." But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. 2 weeks later, I filled out the forms. The day they brought Eli to me was the first time in years I felt my heart wake up. He was 6, quiet, cautious, with brown eyes that looked too old for his age. He didn't talk much, just held on to a stuffed bear missing one eye. The social worker whispered, "He's been through a lot." So had I. We didn't need words. We just understood each other. That night, I tucked him in and said, "You're safe here, okay?" He nodded. And for the first time since Daniel left, I slept through the night without crying. The years that followed were beautiful in a quiet way. Eli blossomed. He loved drawing, building model cars, asking too many questions about the stars. I went from Miss Emily to Mom without realizing when it happened. And every time he called me that, it stitched another tear in my heart closed. By the time he turned 16, he was taller than me, funnier than me, and had a smile that reminded me, painfully, of Daniel. But I didn't dwell on that, because life, for once, was peaceful. Until the letter arrived. It was a Friday morning. Rain again, of course. Eli had just left for school when I opened the mailbox and saw an envelope with no return address. The handwriting was familiar. Too familiar. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside, just one sentence. I need to see you, Emily. Please. Daniel. 10 years. 10 years of silence. And now, suddenly, this? Part of me wanted to burn it right there. Another part, the part that still wondered why he left without turning back, couldn't. I folded the letter, tucked it into the drawer, and tried to forget. But I couldn't. Every night I'd lay awake, replaying his words in my mind. I need to see you. Why now? 3 days later, I got my answer. It was late afternoon when I heard a knock on the door. Not a polite knock, a hesitant one. The kind that says, "I'm not sure I should be here." I opened it, and my world froze. Daniel stood there. Older, thinner, his once dark hair now dusted with gray. But those eyes, those same blue eyes, still had the power to make my heart forget how to beat. "Emily," he whispered, like my name hurt to say. For a moment, I couldn't speak. All I could do was stare at the man who once promised forever and then took it away. Then I noticed it, the way his hand shook, the paleness in his skin, and the small oxygen tank peeking from behind him. "Daniel, what happened to you?" He smiled faintly. "Can I come in? There's something I need to tell you." That's when I realized the man who once left me because I couldn't have children had come back because he was dying. For a moment, I couldn't move. It felt like time had rewound, like the last 10 years hadn't happened. Except they had. Every painful second of them. He stood there on my porch, trembling slightly, eyes searching my face for something. Forgiveness, maybe. But all I could give him was silence. Finally, I stepped aside. "Come in," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded and entered, slow, cautious. The air inside the house felt heavy, like it too remembered him. He looked around, noticing the framed photos on the wall. One picture caught his attention, Eli's school photo. A quiet smile tugged at his lips. "You have a son?" That question, his question, felt like a punch. I looked him straight in the eyes. "No," I said softly. "I have a child. He's my foster son. His name's Eli." He nodded slowly. "He looks happy." "He is," I replied, and crossed my arms, the way you do when you're trying not to fall apart. "Now tell me, Daniel, why are you here?" He hesitated, then sat down on the couch, the same couch where we used to eat pizza on Friday nights, laughing about nothing. "I wasn't sure you'd even open the door," he said, "but I didn't know who else to turn to." I stayed standing. "Turn to me for what?" He glanced at the oxygen tank. The soft hiss of air filled the silence. "I'm sick, Emily. Stage 4 pulmonary fibrosis. My lungs are failing. I have maybe a year, if I'm lucky." The room went quiet. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. A year. That word echoed in my head like a bell tolling for someone I used to love. "I'm sorry," I said finally. And I meant it. But sorry doesn't erase 10 years of abandonment. He continued, his voice breaking. "Emily, I didn't just come here to tell you I'm dying. I came because I need help. I can't do this alone." "Help," I whispered. "What kind of help?" He took a shaky breath. "I have a son. He's 9. His mother passed away last month. There's no one else to take care of him." My heart stopped. A son. He had a child. After everything. I turned away, my voice trembling. "Daniel, please tell me you're not here asking me to..." He said quietly, "I am. I'm asking you to take care of him when I'm gone." For a long moment, I just stared at him. I wanted to scream, to throw him out, to remind him of the night he left me crying in the rain. But I didn't. Because even as the anger burned inside me, I saw the truth in his eyes. He was dying, and he was terrified, not for himself, but for his child. I walked to the window, my back to him. The rain was falling harder now. I could see Eli walking up the driveway from school, his hoodie soaked, waving at me through the window. Behind me, Daniel whispered, "He looks so much like me at that age." I turned sharply. "Don't," I said. "Don't you dare make this about nostalgia. You lost that right." He nodded, swallowed hard, and said something that nearly broke me. "You were always the only person I trusted to love someone unconditionally." Eli opened the door before I could answer. "Hey, Mom," he said, dropping his backpack on the floor. Then he froze. He looked from me to Daniel, confusion flickering in his eyes. Who's this?" I forced a smile. "Eli, this is an old friend." Daniel smiled faintly. "Nice to meet you, Eli." "Yeah, you too," Eli replied, polite as always, then whispered to me, "You okay, Mom?" That word, Mom, hit Daniel like lightning. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes softened. When Eli went upstairs, Daniel whispered, "You're a mother, after all." I didn't answer, because the truth was, yes, I was, but not the way he once demanded I be. That night, after Daniel left, I sat in Eli's room watching him sleep. The letter lay open on my lap again. I should have felt anger, bitterness, but instead I felt something else. Pity for the man who had everything and still chose to throw it away. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept hearing his voice. "I'm asking you to take care of him when I'm gone." The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. "Mrs. Carter?" a woman's voice said. "This is Dr. Kim from St. Mary's Hospital. Mr. Daniel Carter listed you as his emergency contact." My stomach dropped. Emergency contact? He collapsed this morning. He's stable for now,
but he's asking for you." I stared at the phone, frozen. Me? The woman he left behind, the woman he called broken? Now I was the only person he trusted in the world. I drove to the hospital with hands trembling on the steering wheel, rain hammering the windshield again, just like the night he left. And when I walked into that white room and saw him lying there, pale, tubes running from his nose, I realized something I never expected to feel again: compassion. He looked up, saw me, and smiled weakly. "You came." I nodded. "Of course I did." "You didn't know who else to call," he whispered. For the first time in years, I took his hand. It was thin, cold, fragile, like holding the memory of someone you used to know. "Daniel," I said softly, "where's your son now?" He hesitated. "He's at home, with the neighbor. His name's Oliver." Oliver. A name that sounded like hope and heartbreak. He coughed, his voice breaking. "Please, Emily, promise me you'll meet him. Just once. He deserves to know kindness. He deserves you." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I wasn't sure if I could love the child that replaced the life I'd lost. But deep down, I knew I would. Because that's who I was.
The next morning, I got the call I had been dreading. "Mrs. Carter, it's Dr. Kim. Daniel's condition has worsened overnight. You should come immediately." My stomach dropped. I drove through the rain, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. When I arrived, the hospital staff ushered me into his room. He looked smaller, frailer. The life I once knew in him, the laughter, the charm, the warmth, had faded into pale skin, shallow breaths, and the quiet hum of machines. His eyes met mine, still blue, still pleading. "Emily." I walked to his bedside and took his hand. "I'm here," I whispered. He coughed softly, a wet, rattling sound that made my chest ache. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice barely audible. "I left you. I hurt you. I pressed my hand against his, stopping him. Don't say it now. You don't get to unload 10 years of grief on me. Just stay here." He smiled faintly. "I'm trying." Oliver arrived a little later, escorted by a kind nurse. He froze at the doorway, eyes wide. "Mom, he's really sick." I nodded, fighting back tears. "Yes, he is. But you're here now, and he needs to see you." For a moment, he didn't move. Then slowly, he stepped forward, holding my hand tightly. The two of them, the boy and the man who had caused so much pain, locked eyes. Daniel's gaze softened. "Oliver, I want you to know something. I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes. But I've always loved you, even if I didn't say it." The boy swallowed hard. I know, Dad. I'm glad you're here." And just like that, the tension in the room shifted. Not all of it, but enough to breathe. That night, the three of us sat together. Oliver told stories about school. I laughed at the little jokes he made. Daniel listened quietly, smiling weakly, but with pride. At one point, Daniel turned to me, his eyes glistening. "Emily, can I ask you something?" I nodded. "Anything." Do you forgive me?" I hesitated. 10 years of anger, pain, abandonment. Could I forgive him? But looking at him now, seeing the boy who needed both of us, I realized forgiveness wasn't just for him. It was for me. "Yes," I whispered. "Not because I've forgotten, not because I don't hurt, but because we can't change the past, only what we do now." He exhaled, relief washing over him. "Thank you." Over the next few days, his condition declined further. He grew weaker, sometimes unable to speak more than a few words at a time. And yet, he smiled when he saw Oliver and Eli playing together in the hospital room. He watched as the boys built towers of blocks, laughed at silly jokes, and for the first time in a long while, I saw peace on his face. One evening, I sat beside him, holding his hand, my own tears sliding silently down my cheeks. "Emily," he whispered, voice thin, rasping. "Promise. You take care of him, both of them. Please." I nodded, my heart breaking. "I promise, Daniel. I promise." He smiled faintly, a shadow of the man I once loved. You were always stronger than me." Then he drifted into sleep, frail and fragile, and I knew the moment we'd all feared was coming. The day came quietly, no dramatic music, no sudden alarms, just the soft beep of machines. Daniel's breath slowed, each one labored. Oliver and Eli sat beside me, holding my hands tightly. "Mom, he's leaving," Oliver whispered, tears streaming down his face. I nodded, swallowing my own sobs. "Yes, he is. But he's not alone. He's with us." I held his hand, brushing back the hair from his forehead. "You can rest now, Daniel. You're forgiven. And your son, your family, they'll be okay." And then, quietly, almost imperceptibly, he exhaled one final time. I closed my eyes. The room was silent. And in that silence, I felt the weight of 10 years of pain, grief, and love lift just a little. After the funeral, I took Oliver and Eli home. The boys were quiet at first, unsure how to fill the space Daniel had left behind. I made them hot chocolate, put on a movie, and slowly they began to talk. "Mom," Oliver said softly, "he would have liked this." I nodded, tears falling freely. Yes, he would have. That night, I tucked both boys into bed. Eli whispered, "I'm glad you're my mom." Oliver, half asleep, mumbled, "Me too." And in that moment, I realized something profound. Life doesn't always give you the family you expect. Sometimes it gives you the family you need. Weeks later, as I watched Oliver and Eli play in the yard, I knew I had made the right choice. Daniel was gone, but his son was here. And I had found a new kind of motherhood. I sat on the porch holding a cup of tea and whispered to myself, sometimes love doesn't return the way you hope. but it always finds a way to teach you who you are. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt whole again. The days after Daniel's passing were quiet, almost eerily so. The hospital smelled different when I visited for the final paperwork. The beeping machines were gone, replaced by silence. I walked through the corridors, memories flooding back, the sound of his raspy whispers, the soft laughter of Oliver and Eli playing nearby, the tears we had all shed together. Life had changed. At home, the boys adjusted slowly. Eli was patient, protective, teaching Oliver our routines. Oliver was cautious, still learning to trust. And I learned to balance the grief of losing Daniel with the joy of gaining a son I never expected. We set up a small memorial in the living room, a framed photo of Daniel smiling, holding both boys. Oliver placed a hand-drawn card next to it. For my dad, who loved us even when he was scared. Love, Oliver. I couldn't hold back the tears. He would have loved this, I whispered. Eli hugged me tightly. Mom, he's still with us, isn't he? I nodded, holding both of them close. Yes, sweetheart, he's still with us. In every smile, every laugh, every memory. Over the next few weeks, our home slowly filled with life again. Oliver discovered his love for drawing, just like Eli. The boys fought over who got the last cookie, who sat where on the couch, who got to help me cook dinner. Ordinary, chaotic, joyful moments. And in those moments, I realized something I had been missing for 10 long years. Family wasn't about biology. It wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about keeping score. Family was about love. Unconditional, messy, and beautiful love. One rainy evening, ironic, I thought, I sat on the porch, a cup of tea warming my hands, and watched Oliver and Eli run through the puddles. I whispered to myself, life doesn't always go the way we expect. Sometimes it's better than we imagined. I thought about Daniel, his choices, his flaws, his fear. And even in death, he had taught me the most important lesson: forgiveness. And that even broken people can leave something meaningful behind. That night, as I tucked both boys into bed, Oliver whispered, Mom, will you tell me about him again? I smiled, brushing his hair from his forehead. Of course, I'll tell you everything. And Eli, half asleep, mumbled, he would have been proud of us, right? Yes, I said softly. Very proud. And in that quiet, I realized this was my family now. Not the family I dreamed of with Daniel 10 years ago, but the one I had fought to create with love, patience, and resilience. Weeks turned into months. The rain still fell, the leaves still changed, and the boys grew stronger, happier, braver. One evening, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Daniel's sister. Emily, thank you. You gave him peace in his last days. You gave Oliver a chance at life. We owe you everything. Please know he loved you always. I held the letter close, feeling the weight of years lift from my shoulders. And I whispered to myself, sometimes the people we lose teach us how to live. I stepped outside, looking at the horizon. The sky was painted with the soft colors of sunset, orange and pink blending together like hope after grief. I thought about the journey I had been on. Heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and now love, forgiveness, and family. And even though life had tested me, even though I had lost so much, I knew one truth. Love always finds a way. And though Daniel was gone, his presence remained in Oliver, in Eli, in the laughter that filled our home, and in the lessons I would carry forever. I leaned against the porch railing, watching the boys play. I whispered to myself, life isn't perfect, but it's ours. And sometimes that's enough. And deep down, I knew destiny wasn't done testing me yet. Life doesn't always follow the path we expect. Family and love come in many forms, and forgiveness is often the key to moving forward.